The crystal towers of Navera Prime lay shattered like broken dreams across the once gleaming landscape. Elder Thelis moved through the underground caverns, her translucent crystalline form casting prismatic shadows against the rock walls. Each orbital bombardment from above sent tremors through the bedrock, dislodging crystal formations that had grown undisturbed for millennia. "How many remain?" she asked, her voice melodic despite the circumstances. Commander Valex's facets dimmed in the universal Naveri expression of sorrow. "Fewer than 8,000, Elder. The southern habitats fell 3 cycles ago." 8,000. From a civilization of billions, the Krell Dominion had been methodical in their extermination. First, the orbital platforms, then the major cities, and finally the systematic hunting of survivors. The pattern was identical to what had happened on 17 other worlds across 3 sectors. "This way," Phyllis said, leading her small contingent deeper into the cavern network. "The ancestral chamber remains intact." The tunnel opened into a vast underground cathedral, its walls embedded with memory crystals that still pulsed faintly with the recorded history of the Naveri people. At the center stood a device so ancient that even the oldest historical records referred to it as a relic of those who came before. The beacon, a twisted spire of unknown metal and crystalline composites, had been studied for generations without yielding its secrets, until now, when there was nothing left to lose. "They're coming, Elder." A guard's panicked harmonic vibrated through the chamber as the distant sound of Krell bioweapons echoed down the tunnels. "Hunter-killers, at least a dozen." Thelis placed her hands upon the beacon, her body resonating at frequencies beyond normal perception. The device responded, ancient circuitry awakening beneath her touch. 3 centuries, she murmured as the beacon began to glow. 3 centuries we searched the stars for allies against the Krell. We found only the primitive, the conquered, or the indifferent. The beacon's light intensified, bathing the chamber in azure radiance. The pursuing Krell breached the outer defenses, their chidnous forms silhouetted against the tunnel entrance. Acid dripped from their mandibles, dissolving the crystalline floor wherever it landed. "Elder." Valex positioned himself between Thelis and the approaching threat, along with the last 7 members of the Royal Guard. "Almost complete," Thelis called, her form now pulsing in harmony with the ancient device. "The signal parameters are set: distress, authentication, and historical record." A Krell hunter-killer leaked into the chamber, its serrated limbs slicing through 2 guards in a single motion. Velex fired his resonance weapon, shattering the creature's exoskeleton, but 3 more poured in behind it. "It's transmitting." Phyllis cried as the beacon reached peak luminosity. The signal, compressed data containing everything about the Naveri civilization and the Krell threat, shot outward, designed to travel faster than any known communication method. "Now we can only hope." The lead Krell broke through the defensive line, acid spraying from specialized glands. Velex threw himself into its path, his crystalline form beginning to dissolve even as he drove his ceremonial dagger into the creature's sensory cluster. The beacon, its purpose fulfilled, began to destabilize. Thelis made no move to escape. Instead, she interfaced more deeply with the device, channeling her life energy to boost the signal. To whoever receives this, she transmitted along with the main signal. "We were a people of peace. We cultivated beauty. We harbored no ill will toward any sentient being. And for this, we die." The beacon exploded in a cascade of energy, collapsing the chamber and incinerating everything within it, Naveri and Krell alike. The signal raced outward, bypassing normal communication networks, slipping past the territories of a dozen advanced civilizations. It traveled toward a system intentionally omitted from all galactic charts, a yellow star orbited by a blue planet where, unknown to the galaxy at large, humans had been preparing for war since discovering the ruins of a Krell-ravaged civilization on Mars 50 years earlier. On Earth, deep beneath the Olympus military complex, an alarm began to sound. Captain Eliza Chen strode into Earth's war room as klaxons continued their urgent wail. The massive underground facility, carved beneath the Olympus Mons colony on Mars, buzzed with controlled chaos as tactical officers rushed between stations. "Status report," she demanded, her voice cutting through the noise. Admiral Wei, Chen's mentor and the architect of humanity's defense strategy, gestured to the central holotabble. The silver-haired veteran's face bore the grim determination that had made him legendary during the Unification Wars. "The ancestral beacon has activated," he said simply. Chen felt her heart rate spike. Every military officer above a certain rank knew about the beacon, the theoretical signal that might someday come. But after decades of waiting, many had begun to believe it was merely a hypothetical exercise. "Authentication?" she asked, professional mask firmly in place despite the historic significance of the moment. A young analyst stepped forward. "Verified, Captain. Signal structure matches precisely with the parameters found in the Mars tablets." Wei activated the holographic display, showing a dying star system where crystalline structures, eerily similar to the ruins found on Mars half a century ago, crumbled under assault from bioships of distinctly alien design. "The Navari," Wei said, naming the species humanity had only known through archaeological records. "Their civilization is in its final hours. The signal contains their complete historical and biological archive." Chen studied the tactical display, watching Krell hunter-killers systematically exterminating the crystalline beings. "How long have they been fighting?" "That's the thing, Captain," the analyst interjected. "According to the signal data, they never fought back, not effectively. They were a peaceful species with minimal defensive capabilities. And the Krell slaughtered them anyway." Chen finished, disgust evident in her voice. We expanded the holographic display, showing 15 star systems connected by pulsing red lines. "This is the Krell expansion over the past 2 centuries. Methodical, relentless, and according to the Mars tablets." He highlighted a blue dot far from the current conflict zone. "Earth is already on their list for processing." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "That's why we've been preparing," Chen said quietly. "Not just for self-defense. We've been preparing to enter a war already in progress." "Precisely." We gestured to a secondary display showing the UES Thunderchild, Chen's command, the most advanced warship humanity had ever constructed. Operation Thunderous Descent has been in development since before either of us was born. The moment the beacon activated, the countdown began. Chen studied the strategic projections. "The Krell don't know we exist. They know Earth exists, but they believe we're pre-spaceflight primitives. Our radio silence protocol has been absolute for 50 years. No transmissions that could reveal our technological advancement. Meanwhile, we've been building a fleet that could stand against them." Wei's expression hardened as he turned to face the assembled command staff. "We have technologies the Krell cannot anticipate. Dark matter drives, quantum-entangled communications, gravity weaponry. For 50 years, every scientific breakthrough has been evaluated through the lens of potential warfare with a technologically superior enemy." The Admiral brought up images of vast shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt, where hundreds of warships waited in silent readiness. "We've built our military not around what we needed for terrestrial concerns, but around what would be required to face the Krell. And now, that day has come." Chen felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders as Wei handed her a secure tablet with her official orders. "Captain Chen, the UES Thunderchild will lead the Vanguard Force. Coordinates for the Navari homeworld are being uploaded to your navigation systems. Your mission objectives are clear. Rescue any survivors, engage Krell forces, and announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in the most emphatic way possible." Chen accepted the tablet, her voice steady. "How many ships in the battle group?" 317, Wei answered. "The First Fleet, with 6 more in reserve." Chen nodded once, then turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "Admiral, the Navari, We're too late to save their civilization, aren't we? Almost certainly. Wei acknowledged. But there's another objective here, Captain. We need the galaxy to know that humanity stands against extinction. Any species. Anywhere. Message received, sir, Chen said, and strode out to prepare for war. The UES Thunderchild emerged from dark space at the edge of the Navera system, its silhouette immediately morphing as adaptive biomimetic panels reconfigured the ship's external appearance. What had been a sleek, angular human warship now pulsed with the organic, asymmetrical contours of a Krell support vessel. On the bridge, Captain Chen watched through tactical displays as her vanguard fleet followed suit, each ship adopting the disguise perfected through decades of intelligence gathering. Biomimicry complete, reported Lieutenant Commander Riza, his fingers dancing across the weapons control interface. Krell recognition codes transmitting. They're acknowledging without question. Chen nodded, unsurprised. The Krell never expect deception. They've never needed to. Unchallenged, the disguised human fleet drifted deeper into the system, past the outer patrol perimeter where massive Krell dreadnoughts maintained blockade positions. Internal scans revealed the devastation of Navera Prime. Once gleaming crystal cities reduced to rubble, with Krell processing ships harvesting the remains. Life signs, Chen asked quietly. Scattered. Underground mostly, the sensor officer replied. Perhaps 5,000 Naveri remaining in deep cavern networks. The Krell are preparing for final extraction suites. Chen's jaw tightened. Deploy infiltration teams as planned. Boarding operations on all priority targets. Throughout the fleet, airlocks cycled open as special operations teams in modified Krell biosuits launched toward designated enemy vessels. Their mission: sabotage critical systems before the main assault began. Commander Jackson led Alpha Team toward the nearest Krell command ship, their suits perfectly replicating the chitinous exoskeletons of Krell maintenance drones. Inside his helmet, Jackson's face was beaded with sweat despite environmental controls. Remember, he subvocalized to his team, move with purpose but not urgency. Krell drones never hurry. They docked without challenge and entered through maintenance conduits, the organic architecture of the Krell vessel pulsing around them like the interior of some vast living organism. Unknown to any of them, embedded journalist Maya Okafor had smuggled herself aboard their insertion craft, her miniaturized camera drones following at a discreet distance. Against direct orders, she was determined to document humanity's first contact with an alien species, hostile or otherwise. Alpha Team reached the ship's central nervous system, a pulsating chamber where bioelectrical impulses coordinated the vessel's functions. They began planting their devices, engineered viruses designed to attack the ship's biological components on command. 3 decks below, Specialist Reyes felt his suit malfunction, the biomimetic field flickering. A passing Krell warrior drone paused, its sensory appendages twitching with sudden interest. The disguise failed completely, revealing the human form beneath. Time seemed to freeze as predator and prey locked eyes. Rice didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, combat knife slicing through the drone's primary nerve cluster before it could sound an alarm. But the commotion attracted others. Soon, he was cornered in a maintenance junction, surrounded by chittering Krell warriors. Alpha Leader, he transmitted calmly despite the situation. My position is compromised. Implementing Protocol Omega. Jackson's voice crackled through the comm. Negative, Reyes. We're coming for you. Too late. Reyes activated his emergency beacon, ensuring his position would be recorded. Complete the mission. Earth needs this data. From her hidden position, Maya Okafor's drones captured what happened next. A lone human soldier, armed with only a knife and the grenades on his combat harness, holding off waves of Krell warriors in the confined space. His movements were precise, each strike targeting vulnerable nerve clusters identified during decades of research. For 3 minutes and 42 seconds, Specialist Michael Rice fought with a ferocity that caused even the predatory Krell to hesitate between assaults. When they finally overwhelmed him, he triggered his remaining explosives. The resulting detonation cascaded through adjacent systems, causing chain reactions that disabled the Krell vessel's weapons array, accomplishing his team's objective even in death. Throughout the fleet, similar operations unfolded with varying degrees of success. 78% of targeted systems were compromised, with 34 human operatives lost. Maya Okafor transmitted the footage of Raya's last stand back to the Thunderchild through a secure quantum channel. The raw, unedited recording would later be seen by billions across human space, and eventually by the surviving Navari themselves. On the bridge, Chen watched the timer counting down to 0. All teams report status complete, Reza announced. We are go for Phase 2. Chen nodded once, her expression steel. Shed the wolves' clothing. Show them our teeth. Execute Phase 2. Captain Chen's command cut through the tense silence on the Thunderchild's bridge. Across the human fleet, biomimetic panels retracted in a synchronized cascade, revealing the true nature of the vessels beneath. Gleaming hulls of magnetized tungsten-titanium alloy reflected the distant starlight as weapon ports cycled open. All ships, weapons-free, Chen ordered. Priority targets as designated. The first salvo caught the Krell completely unprepared. Localized gravity weapons, technology the Krell believed theoretically impossible, created microscopic singularities within enemy vessels, crushing them from within before dissipating. 47 Krell ships were destroyed in the opening volley, their organic components imploding spectacularly. On the Krell command ship, War Master Vexard witnessed his fleet being decimated by weapons he couldn't comprehend, deployed by an enemy that had appeared from nowhere. Worse, key systems across surviving vessels were failing simultaneously, the work of human infiltration teams. Planetary assault units, launch now. Chen commanded as the initial confusion gave the humans a critical advantage. Valkyrie Squad, you are go for drop. Lieutenant Sarah Koga led her 12-woman team to the deployment bay where their specialized mecha suits waited. Each pilot stood barely over 5 feet tall, selected for their exceptional strength-to-weight ratio and neurological compatibility with the advanced interface systems. Remember the simulation data, Koga reminded them as they sealed their suits. Navara's crystal environment will shatter under standard mesh units. Our light frames are the only option for ground support. The Valkyries loaded into drop pods designed to appear as debris from the space battle above. As they plunged through the atmosphere, Krell point defense systems ignored them, focused on the more obvious threats. The pods crashed into the crystalline terrain near the largest concentration of surviving Navari. Koga's unit emerged first, her mecha unfurling like a mechanical butterfly from its chrysalis. Standing 12 feet tall but weighing less than a standard infantry soldier thanks to ultralight carbon lattice construction, the suit moved with delicate precision across the crystal surface. Spread out. Locate survivors, she ordered. Minimal footprint until we secure the extraction zones. Private Rodriguez's sensors detected a Krell processing center 2 kilometers east, where captured Navari were being systematically harvested for biological components. Lieutenant, we've got civilians being processed. Hundreds of them. Moving to your position, Koga replied, her mecha sprinting across the fractured landscape with impossible grace. Above, the space battle intensified. The initial human advantage was fading as the Krell adapted, bringing their superior numbers to bear. Admiral Hassan's flagship, the UES Reckoning, took a direct hit to its propulsion system. Reactor containment failing, his executive officer reported. 3 minutes to catastrophic breach. Hassan surveyed the tactical display. His ship was directly above the largest Krell command vessel, the heart of their operation in this system. He made his decision instantly. Evacuate all personnel. I'm staying aboard. Sir, that's an order. Hassan activated the ship's quantum communications array, connecting to a secure facility light years away where his consciousness backup waited. Initiate Protocol Lazarus. As his crew abandoned ship, Hassan piloted the damaged vessel on a collision course with the Krell command ship. The massive impact destroyed both vessels in a spectacular detonation that created a momentary artificial sun in Navera's sky. On the ground, the Valkyrie squad fought through Krell ground forces to reach the processing center. Rodriguez's unit became separated during a flanking maneuver, cut off by a Krell harvester unit 3 times her mecha size. "I'm surrounded," she reported calmly. "No extraction possible." Koga's response was immediate. "Fall back." Rodriguez: "That's an order." "Negative, ma'am. I've got eyes on at least 50 civilians. You need a diversion to reach them." Rodriguez's voice remained steady as she accessed her suit's restricted protocols. Activating Samson. Before Koga could override the command, Rodriguez channeled her suit's entire power supply into its experimental antimatter containment chamber, then deliberately breached it. The resulting detonation vaporized 3 square kilometers, including the Krell harvester ship and every enemy unit in the vicinity. The precise calibration of the blast created a perfect firebreak between the Krell forces and the Navari survivors, while leaving the crystal caverns containing civilians intact. Through the mushroom cloud, Koga led the remaining Valkyries toward the now exposed cavern entrance, where terrified Navari watched in disbelief as the small mechanical figures approached, harbingers of an impossible salvation from a species they never knew existed. The crystal caverns of Navara Prime resonated with the sound of alien machinery and voices. Lieutenant Koga's Valkyrie squad established a defensive perimeter around the largest survivor enclave, while medical teams deployed from orbital shuttles. Captain Chen's boots crunched on crystalline fragments as she approached the cavern entrance. She'd insisted on making first contact personally, a decision her security team had protested vigorously. Atmosphere analysis complete, her suit AI reported. Breathable but high in mineral particulates. Recommend limited exposure. Chen nodded and removed her helmet, letting the survivors see a human face. The assembled Navari drew back in collective shock. Their crystalline bodies pulsed with waves of blue light, an emotional response Chen's xenobiology briefing had identified as surprise or fear. From the group, a slender figure emerged. Unlike the others, whose crystal forms were clouded with stress fractures, this one retained a clear, faceted structure that refracted light in complex patterns. "I am Selith," the Navari said, its voice producing harmonic overtones that made Chen's ears tingle. "Daughter of Elder Thelis, who sent the beacon." Chen stepped forward, palms open in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I am Captain Eliza Chen of Earth. We received your distress signal." Earth. Selith's crystalline form pulsed with amber light. Confusion. "We sent our call to all spacefaring worlds. None have ever answered before. We've kept our existence discreet," Chen replied carefully. "But we know of the Krell. We've been preparing to confront them for decades." The Navari survivors murmured among themselves, their bodies creating a symphony of light and subtle harmonics. Selith approached Chen cautiously. "You fight like nothing we have ever witnessed," she said. "The Krell called themselves apex predators of the galaxy. Yet your soldiers move with even greater predatory efficiency." Chen couldn't help the grim smile that crossed her face. "On our world, humans were not always the apex predator. We evolved as both predator and prey. It shapes how we think, how we fight." Selith studied Chen's face with multifaceted eyes. "You weep," she observed, noticing the moisture gathering at the corners of Chen's eyes. "For your fallen warriors." "For yours as well," Chen answered honestly. "For all who were lost here." This response triggered a cascade of light through Selith's form. The Krell told us emotional depth was unique to crystalline species, that organic beings were driven only by biological imperatives. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Thunderchild. "Captain," Commander Reza's voice came through her earpiece, "our data teams have completed preliminary analysis of captured Krell databases. You need to see this immediately." Minutes later, Chen stood in a makeshift command center as holographic displays showed the disturbing truth. The Krell themselves were merely servants to entities known as the Void Collective, energy beings who harvested organic sentience for purposes unknown. More shocking was the genetic analysis comparing Navari and human DNA analogues. "That can't be right," Chen whispered, staring at the unmistakable patterns. "Run it again." "We have, Captain," the science officer replied. "Multiple times. The underlying genetic structure shows clear evidence of common engineering. Humans and Navari share an artificial ancestral template, modified for our respective environments." Chen turned to Selith, who had been permitted to observe the analysis. "We were both created by someone else, seated across different worlds." As insurance against extinction, Selith concluded, her scientific training allowing her to grasp the implications quickly. "The architects that our oldest legends speak of." A tactical alarm cut through the moment of revelation. Long-range sensors detected a massive Krell reinforcement fleet entering the system, at least 3 times larger than the forces humanity had already engaged. The human command staff tensed, calculations running through their minds. Their orders permitted withdrawal if the tactical situation became untenable. Chen studied the approaching enemy force, then looked at the surviving Navari, beings who, they now knew, shared a distant common ancestor with humanity. "Captain," her XO said quietly, "strategic assessment suggests immediate withdrawal. We've accomplished the primary objective of data collection. Secondary objective of species contact is complete. And leave them to die." Chen asked, nodding toward the Navari. "The math doesn't favor us, Captain." Chen's jaw tightened as she made her decision. "Get me a direct line to Admiral Wei. We're not leaving. Tell the fleet to prepare for Phase 3. As the human officers rushed to comply, Selith approached Chen again. "You would stay and fight, when escape is possible." Chen's eyes hardened. None anticipated we would be saviors. But now that we're here, that's exactly what we intend to be. Conventional engagement is suicide. Admiral Wei's holographic projection stated bluntly from the command center. "Even with our technological advantages, their numbers will overwhelm us." Captain Chen nodded, studying the tactical display where hundreds of Krell vessels approached in standard formation. "Then we don't engage conventionally." Wei's eyes narrowed with understanding. "Phase 3, he said quietly. "You're certain?" "The Navari are genetically linked to humanity," Chen replied. "We're not abandoning family." The Admiral's expression hardened with resolve. "Implementing Eternal Might protocols. Transmitting tactical package now." The holographic display resolved into a complex battle plan that made several officers gasp. Chief Engineer Miguel Sanchez, who had been coordinating repairs to damaged vessels, stepped forward. "Captain, I can have 3 mining platforms repurposed within the hour," he said, already calculating velocities in his head. "Make it happen," Chen ordered. She turned to her tactical officer. "Deploy uncertainty bombs at these coordinates. Containment fields at minimum sustainability." As the human fleet sprang into frenzied activity, Selith observed with growing fascination. "Your people act with such certainty," she remarked to Chen. "As if you've trained for this exact scenario." "Because we have," Chen replied simply. "For 50 years, we've run simulations against superior Krell members. This is Human Warfare Protocol 37. When outnumbered, change the rules of engagement." In space, Sanchez's team converted asteroid mining platforms into relativistic kill vehicles. Massive objects accelerated to appreciable percentages of light speed. Meanwhile, specialized ships deployed uncertainty bombs, devices that temporarily altered physical constants within localized spaces. The Krell fleet approached in perfect formation, their bioships communicating through natural equivalents of quantum entanglement. The first relativistic impactor struck their forward screen at 0.15 C, converting kinetic energy into a blinding flash that vaporized 27 vessels instantly. "They're adjusting course," the tactical officer reported. "Spreading formation to minimize kinetic strike effectiveness." "Exactly as expected," Chen nodded. "Detonate uncertainty fields." Across the battlefield, dozens of specialized warheads activated, creating spherical zones where fundamental physical constants temporarily fluctuated. Krell bioships, evolved to function under normal spacetime conditions, began to dissolve as molecular bonds failed unpredictably within these regions. "They're adapting," the sensor officer warned. "Bioships are generating counterfields." Chen had anticipated this. "Deploy Phase 3B Crimson Nebula Protocol." On her command, the human fleet executed a complex series of maneuvers, deliberately luring the numerically superior Krell forces into the debris field created by the earlier battle. Specialized vessels deployed gravitational tethers, creating a web of intersecting gravitic forces. "The Krell rely on evolutionary adaptation," Chen explained to Seleth, who watched in astonishment. "We rely on knowledge accumulated across generations. Their ships are superior biological organisms. Ours are built on understanding the universe's fundamental principles." To demonstrate, she pointed to the tactical display where the complex gravitational web began collapsing the debris field itself, compressing the scattered matter into an ever-denser configuration. "You're creating a temporary singularity," Seleth realized, her crystalline form pulsing with alarm. "A black hole." "A micro-black hole," Chen corrected. "Precisely calculated to collapse after consuming approximately 60% of the Krell fleet, while our ships escape through these predetermined slipstream corridors." Admiral Wei's hologram reappeared. "Singularity formation in 30 seconds. All human vessels, prepare for emergency translation on my mark." Chen turned to Seleth. "Your people need to board our evacuation shuttles immediately. The gravitational distortion will make this planet uninhabitable for approximately 73 years. As the Navari rushed to comply, Chen watched the tactical display where the Krell fleet, trapped in the collapsing gravitational web, tried desperately to escape. They had evolved to be perfect predators, but they had never encountered a species that turned the laws of physics themselves into weapons. "Translation in 5 seconds, Wei announced. 4, 3. The debris field collapsed to a brilliant point of light, dragging half the Krell armada into oblivion. Simultaneously, human vessels accelerated along precisely calculated vectors that used the forming singularity's gravity well to slingshot them to safety, carrying the surviving Navari with them. Behind them, a temporary star blazed where Navara Prime had once orbited, its light a funeral pyre for a world whose children would now find sanctuary among distant cousins they never knew existed. 2 months after the Battle of Navara Prime, Commander Imani Johnson stood before the Joint Chiefs in Earth's war room. The tall, dark-skinned woman's face showed the strain of her recent mission preparations. "Operation Mindwalker is ready," she reported, her voice steady despite the enormity of what she proposed. "My team will infiltrate Krell Prime and locate the Void Collective's primary nexus." Admiral Wei, now sporting a prosthetic arm from injuries sustained in recent battles, studied the mission parameters with a grim expression. "The intelligence gathered from Navara suggests the collective exists partially outside normal spacetime. Are your operatives prepared for that reality?" Johnson nodded. "Each member of my 12-person team has undergone the experimental augmentation. We can temporarily manipulate our molecular structure to mimic Krell biosignatures." Captain Chen, recently promoted to Fleet Command after her actions at Navara, leaned forward. "And the consciousness bridge?" "Dr. Nakamura has successfully tested it on volunteers," Johnson replied. "The technology that saved Admiral Hassan has been refined. If captured, we can transfer consciousness back to secure facilities here." The mission launched in secret, with Johnson's team aboard a captured Krell scout vessel. Using intelligence gathered from Navara, they plotted a course directly to the heart of Krell territory, a region previously considered impenetrable. Their vessel approached Krell Prime unchallenged, its biological signature reading as a returning surveillance craft. Johnson's team, Their bodies temporarily restructured at the molecular level to emit Krell pheromones and biosignatures, disembarked without raising alarms. Stay in formation. Johnson subvocalized through their neural links as they moved through massive organic structures that served as the Krell capital. Remember, we look like maintenance drones. Act accordingly. Their intelligence had identified a massive structure at the planet's North Pole as the likely nexus of the Void Collective. As they approached, Johnson's enhanced senses detected something unexpected: human biosignatures. "Command, we have anomalous readings," she transmitted through their quantum-entangled communicator. "Possible human captives within the Nexus structure." "Proceed with caution," came Admiral White's response. "Primary objective remains intelligence gathering on the Collective." Inside the sprawling organic complex, Johnson's team discovered the horrifying truth. Suspended in nutrient baths were the crew members of the UES Pathfinder, a survey vessel that had disappeared 27 years earlier. Their bodies were maintained in perfect health, while their minds were subjected to elaborate simulations. "They're being farmed," Johnson's XO whispered in horror as they accessed a nearby terminal. "The Collective feeds on emotional energy, particularly terror and despair. They keep them alive in simulations of Earth's destruction, harvesting the emotional response." Johnson made the difficult decision to proceed deeper into the complex rather than attempt an immediate rescue. At the central chamber, they finally glimpsed the Void Collective, writhing tendrils of dark energy that periodically interfaced with Krell overseers through specialized biological ports. "Recording everything," Johnson confirmed as they planted surveillance devices, preparing to extract. The mission unraveled when her XO suddenly seized, his body convulsing as his molecular structure reverted to human form. Before Johnson could react, alarm pheromones flooded the chamber. "Michaels, what happened?" Johnson demanded as Krell security drones converged on their position. Her XO straightened, a strange light in his eyes. "I am not Michaels," he said in a flat voice. "Not anymore." The truth dawned with horrifying clarity. "You're one of them. A hybrid. The first successful integration," not Michaels confirmed. "Created from genetic material harvested from the Pathfinder crew. I was placed among you from the beginning." As Krell forces surrounded them, Johnson watched her team being systematically captured or killed. Her own escape route cut off. She made an unprecedented decision. "You feed on emotional energy," she said loudly, addressing the Void Collective directly. "Then feed on mine. I volunteer." The dark tendrils paused, clearly intrigued by this unusual offering. As they reached for her, Johnson activated the specialized neural package hidden deep within her augmented brain, a consciousness virus developed from the technology that had saved Admiral Hassan. When the Collective interfaced with her mind, the virus propagated through their psychic network, forcing them to experience every emotion they had harvested from countless victims, a feedback loop of terror, despair, and pain that shattered their collective consciousness. The resulting psychic backlash collapsed the neural control network binding the Krell to their masters. Throughout Krell space, overseers and warriors suddenly found themselves free from the compulsions that had driven them for millennia. Johnson's consciousness, fragmented by the encounter, managed to activate her emergency transfer beacon. As her body collapsed, her mind scattered across space toward Earth, altered but intact enough to deliver the crucial intelligence that would change the course of the war. Earth's council chambers, once a place of quiet diplomacy, now vibrated with the sounds of 32 distinct species. 3 years had passed since Commander Johnson's mission shattered the Void Collective's control over the Krell, triggering a civil war that reshaped galactic politics. Admiral Eliza Chen, her captain's insignia replaced with the 4 stars of Fleet Command, stood beside Seleth, now the Navari ambassador. Together they watched representatives from worlds that, until recently, had never known of each other's existence. "They're still arguing about the memorial design," Chen observed with a small smile. Seleth's crystalline form pulsed with amusement. "The Atavi believe 64 arms are required to properly honor the fallen." The Jugzari insist on a purely mathematical representation. And humans want something everyone can touch, Chen added. The debate was settled when Miguel Sanchez, now director of Xenotechnology Integration, unveiled his solution, a monument constructed from salvaged Krell bioship components and Navari crystal, enhanced with programmable matter technology from the Atavi. The structure could reconfigure itself based on who approached, presenting a form meaningful to each species' sensory and cultural framework. Perfect, Chen whispered as the assembly burst into appreciative sounds ranging from human applause to Navari harmonic resonance. Outside the chambers, Maya O'Keefe's documentary, Then We Descended, played on massive screens, its unflinching portrayal of humanity's intervention at Navera Prime having become required viewing in schools across multiple civilizations. The footage of Specialist Reyes' last stand had become iconic, a symbol of sacrifice that transcended species boundaries. Ambassador Selith approached the podium, her crystalline form radiating with formal colors. 3 years ago, my people faced extinction. None anticipated saviors. Then humanity descended with thunderous intensity. She gestured toward a delegation of former Krell warriors, their chitinous forms now adorned with symbols of the rebellion that had overthrown the remaining Void collective influence. Today, ancient enemies stand as allies. The Krell resistance has destroyed the last Void collective nexus. For the first time in recorded history, truly free association exists between spacefaring civilizations. Admiral Wei, his prosthetic arm gleaming with Atavi biointegration technology, took the podium next. The Terran Accord is now ratified by 32 species. Its core principle remains unchanged. No sentient species shall face extinction alone. The strong shall defend the weak until the weak become strong. As the ceremony concluded, the long-range sensor officer from the Thunderchild, now integrated into Earth's defense network, burst into the chamber. Her face was pale. Admiral Chen, she called, we're detecting a massive distortion approaching from intergalactic space. Energy signature unlike anything we've encountered, even the Void Collective. The assembled delegates erupted in panicked communications. The advanced Juxari representatives confirmed the readings with their own sensors, an entity of unprecedented power approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Evacuation protocols activated automatically. Representatives rushed to communicate with their homeworlds as defense forces throughout known space went to maximum alert. Chen studied the readings, then made a decision that would define the next chapter of galactic history. She accessed the emergency broadcast system that connected all 32 worlds. This is Admiral Eliza Chen of Earth. Stand down evacuation protocols. Her voice carried the unmistakable tone of command. We stand together. The simple phrase spread across all communication channels, translated into hundreds of languages. On world after world, evacuation preparations paused as species who had only recently discovered they were not alone in the universe made the same choice humanity had made at Navera Prime. In Earth's primary observatory, Chen and Selith watched the approaching anomaly. The Navari's crystalline perceptual abilities detected structural patterns invisible to human eyes, while Chen perceived energy fluctuations the Navari couldn't sense. Our differences make us stronger together, Selith observed quietly. None anticipated we would be saviors. Then we descended with thunderous intensity, Chen finished. She checked her sidearm, a habit she'd never lost, and straightened her uniform. And we haven't finished descending yet. As the unknown entity drew closer, the assembled fleet of 32 species moved into formation. At their center, the UES Thunderchild Aya led the vanguard, its weapons primed. Whatever came next, they would face it not as separate species, but as a symphony of civilization that had learned the most important lesson of all. In a hostile universe, unity was the ultimate evolution.